From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 596. I am Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. I'm joined as always by my co-host Derek, DP3 in the forum, and DP3G and DP384 on X. Derek, NBA 2K26 is out now for everyone. I have my copy, and there's also some other big news to discuss this week, so please, tip us off.
Yeah, so our main topic today is centered around college basketball. EA Sports announced that they will not be making a college basketball video game in the near future due to some schools going with 2K. While 2K announced college DLC and potentially a standalone game in the future. However, Andrew, before we dive into that topic, you finally got your hands on NBA 2K26. I gave my first impressions last week, which included a prediction that you would not be fond of this game. So, Andrew, what are your first impressions of the game, and was I right?
Well, as I said, I entered NBA 2K26 with low expectations. That was my mindset heading into the release of NBA 2K26. Throughout the previous season, I said I was keeping my expectations low, hoping to be surprised, pleasantly surprised. Unfortunately, you were absolutely correct. I have not enjoyed NBA 2K26 so far. I dislike the shooting. I dislike the layup timing. I dislike the feel of the game on the sticks, defensively and offensively, trying to make moves. I just don't feel it. Moment to moment, not feeling any joy with this game. I don't like to throw around the word hate, Derek, because it's a strong word, and the more you overuse strong words, the less impactful they become. I think I hate NBA 2K26. I have not enjoyed it at all so far. I will say that it's run pretty well on my, what was once a mid-tier gaming PC. It's definitely been surpassed in the couple of years that I've had it. Running pretty well. It seems pretty well optimized. That's nice to see, but that doesn't really matter when you're not enjoying the on-court experience, which I'm not. And it's a bummer. And it's weird because I did keep my expectations low, but in the back of my mind, I was still hoping that maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe we're both underestimating how much I'll enjoy this game. But no, those predictions were spot on. And it's kind of broken me, Derek. I hate to say it. I'm not looking forward to talking about this game moving forward. I'm not looking forward to playing this game, although I will give it more of a chance and see if I change my mind about it and give it a proper chance and everything. But I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to future games. I'm not looking forward to future previous seasons. And I know that's a whole year away at this point, but this has been a whole generation where I've not enjoyed NBA 2K. This has just kind of been a breaking point for me. And yeah, I'm kind of bummed about that, to be honest.
I have a question for you. So looking back at the courtside reports you read, all the announcements for the preview season related to enhancements and all of that stuff, do you feel lied to, kind of cheated, looking back on that?
In a way, but I suppose at the same time, I didn't totally buy into it. I was kind of expecting a lot of it to be overselling how good the game was going to be and how much of an improvement it was going to be. So, in a way, I do feel lied to, but at the same time, because I didn't completely buy into it, I'm not that let down. And yet at the same time, let down. It's kind of weird that way. But, yeah, looking at those developer blogs, I feel pretty justified in not buying into all the hype.
I do want to point out that, again, I'm going to get more hours out of this game than you. Probably already. I put in 20 to 30 hours in this game. You might not get that many hours in for the whole game cycle, right? Yeah. I have different ways that I play. I get enjoyment out of the game with my brothers. And while I have a lot of critiques and I think that there's a lot of issues with these games, they're more playable for me than they are for you. But I am guessing that you noticed immediately how bad the foot planning is.
Oh, yes.
Right. And one of the things they stated was that the skating from past games was removed. That was in the official courtside report. What a bummer, right? To hear that announcement and to get your hands on the sticks and just feel it with most of your moves and just see it on your screen and feel how it's impacting outcomes and all of that stuff and players kind of sliding and snapping into place everywhere and all that stuff and really poor collision detection and a lot of suction. Like, this just bums you out, right? Like it feels like it's kind of like a slap in the face to the consumer who's paying for this product.
It is, and considering that we are on the 9th generation, we've come this far with technology, and some of it doesn't feel as good as technology we had 10, 15, 20 years ago sometimes. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but as far as feeling fun on the sticks, as far as being that realistic NBA sim, that enjoyable take on the sim style, it just isn't there for me. And I think it is because it's been so focused in recent years on the online scene, on the competitive scene, tailoring the game for competitive play, such as it is, it's really affected the offline gameplay for me. Me playing solo against the CPU, not playing co-op, not playing against other users. It's just not a fun experience for me. And I will say that other people are enjoying the game. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong. I would never condescend to do that. Anybody who is in turn condescending and saying that anybody who dislikes the game is a hater or doesn't know what they're talking about, I will push back on that. If you're saying that, I hope you're getting paid. I hope you're getting some perks, because I'd hate to be shilling for free like that. But if you are enjoying the game, legitimately enjoying the game, I will not tell you that you're wrong. Look, I'll try some slider tweaks. I'll keep playing it. I'll give it a go. It's not like I haven't had games that have made a poor first impression that I've come to really love later on. You know that, Derek. Going back years with some games. So I will continue to give it a go, but my first impressions, I really was turned off the game, unfortunately. Like you said, I don't think I'll be spending anywhere near as much time with the game as you will be, but I'll give it a go. But right now, really bummed. Just not feeling it whatsoever.
What were the first 2 teams you put on the floor?
Well, this probably doesn't help. I did go for the Jordan era, and I know that's a mistake to go for the historical
That is
eras.
A monster mistake. But you shouldn't have to feel that way, right?
Well, that's right.
I want to point that out. Like those rosters should be playable, out of the gate. But again, we know that they're incredibly low priority, and those teams do not play well at all. The players are so underdone. Signatures off all across the board. Attributes are off across the board. Badges aren't assigned appropriately. It's just a super blah experience. I have not had one positive experience with any Eras games that I've played, and it's pretty damn disappointing. You're not at fault for trying to put them on the floor. First, it's the company's at fault for, making those rosters, play so poorly.
Oh, yeah, it's an indictment of how poorly those rosters are done, absolutely. But with that being said, as you pointed out last week, the current rosters, there is more care put into them. They do play better. That has been the case for quite a while, since the beginning of, well, I suppose, classic teams, certainly the era's rosters. So that's the other thing that I will be trying, playing more with the current NBA. Of course, I don't feel as positive about the current NBA, which is why I did opt for the era's rosters, the Jordan era, just so I would have that familiarity, just so there was a bit of nostalgia there at the same time. But, they've usually done a decent job with Michael Jordan. I mean, 2K11 obviously was the pinnacle of that in many ways, and that generation, they were doing a much better job of authenticity with some of the legends, MJ included. But MJ in that era's rosters does not feel like MJ at all. And maybe it's just me struggling with some of the mechanics. Again, I hate the layup timing. I think that's broken. I think that's terrible. Missing that many layups with MJ, not being able to green that release. Maybe it's a skill issue. Maybe I've got to, maybe I do need to get good.
It's not. I played with you on other games. It's mechanics, right?
Fair enough.
The thing is you can't use Jordan like Jordan. Yeah, well, you can't use Jordan like Jordan when the mechanics don't support it, right?
Yeah.
When the gameplay's engine doesn't support it. And I also want to point out that there was a lot more authenticity with Michael Jordan in a game like 2K11 that came out, 14, 15 years ago.
Exactly.
He has more signature style in that game, more of his layups around the rim, the way he shoots, all of that stuff. Like, the authenticity is far more in that game. But no, it is. It's the mechanics. I talked to you about how it feels a lot like 2K24, like the issues we had with that game. And I think you noticed it right
Spot
away.
on.
You try to turn a corner with Jordan and you hit an invisible wall. You try to turn it, you get bumped for no reason when the defender's not even really in a position to be able to do that. You try to attack the rim and you're sucked into other defenders, right? And Jordan's missing, easy shots at the rim that he shouldn't miss on inferior defenders, et cetera. So it's not, I can promise you that it's not you. Right. Like, I think that there's always, a little bit of a learning curve
Sure.
when you pick up a new game. But at the same time, as you noticed, the mechanics really haven't changed that much as far as like button mapping.
Exactly.
Right. So you know what buttons to push.
It's familiar. Yeah.
Right. And you know what, yeah, it's familiar. But at the same time, there's quite a few gameplay mechanics issues that get in the way of, you enjoying the action. I want to point out too that you weren't fond of 2K25, but you and I played a game, using the current nuggets. We played a couple other games, et cetera, over Parsec, and your impressions were a little bit more positive. And I think it's like I stated, I think it's because it had less frustrations than 2K26. I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, you seem to enjoy 2K25 a little bit more.
I definitely felt more positive about it around launch. I didn't get into it as much as I hoped, but I could see the good in it. This time around, I'm not feeling it at all, so far anyway. And yeah, that is good news to hear that it's not just my stick skills, it is the mechanics. I was noticing that, look, Kiki Vandeweghe was a fine player, a star player, as you know, Derek. He should not be able to cut off MJ on the drive each and every time. Thanks to the suction, he can. Timing MJ's shot.
And you were playing on Pro. I want to let our listeners know that I know the way you play when you boot up the game first. It's very similar to me. Right when you jump into a game and it's just the default settings, right?
Yes.
So you're not even on the higher difficulty settings.
No, because I'm trying to acclimate to the game and any learning curve, and then just kind of learn the timing and some of the idiosyncrasies, and still hitting that wall and trying to get a steal with MJ, one of the best pickpockets in NBA history, and hitting that press steal to foul issue that we talked about last week that has been an issue for years now. And it was an issue in a couple of NBA Live games last generation as well. They've just gone away from such fantastic steal mechanics. Live 18 had really fun steal mechanics. 2K17 had really fun steal mechanics. That generation, that time period of games had some really nice mechanics. Some issues here and there as well, but 2K17, as we've said before, one of our all-time favorite games, one of the best motion systems engines, in our opinion, that just seems to be more and more of a distant memory at this point. So I'm glad to hear that it's not just me, that there are some mechanical issues, but at the same time I am bummed that there are those mechanical issues. Once again, I'll give it a go. I'll play with some current teams. I'll try and change up my strategy. I'll try to get as used to the idiosyncrasies and the approach to controls and shooting as I can, because obviously once you master the controls and you're doing things and making highlights and winning games, you do start to enjoy games a little bit more. But my first impressions, man, yeah, it broke me. Like I said, Derek, it doesn't have me looking forward to the future of NBA 2K, covering the games, talking about the games, playing the games. I know I've been leaning very heavily into retro gaming these past few years, but there's a reason for it. I've just not felt 2K on this generation, and unfortunately 2K26 was not the title to change those habits, to change that view.
Yeah, and you've been having fun retro gaming, right?
A blast, absolute blast.
Yeah. And I want to point out, too, about the steal mechanics. It's not just press steal to foul either. It's your hands going through the ball constantly. Instead of making more realistic steal mechanics to combat too many steals, as they stated there was too many steals happening, they just decided to do a Band-Aid fix where now we're just not going to let you get a steal even when you time it right? Even when your hand, should be knocking the ball away, now we're going to make sure your hand goes through the ball. And then you probably noticed this, that when you go for steals now, there is it's like in slow motion. A lot of the time your guy does this like super lunge, and it's in slow motion and it puts you completely out of position, and no player is going for steals like that, 90 to 95% of the time. So instead of making more realistic steal mechanics, they applied ridiculous Band-Aid fixes to the current motion system. And by the way, how about that whole announcement that this was going to be like a new motion system?
Yeah.
I mean, I know when you picked it up, the motion felt very familiar for PS5 gen. But yeah, I just wanted to say that about steal mechanics. They tried to put these like Band-Aid fixes in by slowing down the steal animations. Now when you go for them, your hand's going through the ball, all of that. And they press steal to foul is worse than ever. And it's like, guys, how about you actually try to make a new steal system, right? More realistic stealing mechanics as opposed to these ridiculous Band-Aid fixes. As it relates to optimization, I did want to point this out. So I have a AMD 6650 XT graphics card and an AMD 3700X processor with 16 gigabytes of RAM. And you've seen my footage and whatnot. I max out this game with no issues, 60 FPS, 1080p.
Buttery smooth, yeah.
It's so smooth. It's great. So optimization has been great for me. People with 7000 series GPUs for AMD working great. Yours with NVIDIA is working well. Same with people with 2000 and 3000 series NVIDIA. However, I've seen some complaints on Steam, but also on forums that AMD 9000 series GPUs and NVIDIA, some of the NVIDIA 4000 series GPUs are having some issues with this game. And I believe that there's a patch that went through for optimization for the AMD 9000 series GPUs. I'm not sure about the NVIDIA 4000 series. I know that with NBA 2K25, the 4000 series GPUs was the main problem as it relates to cards having optimization issues. But as you stated, you have what's considered probably now a low to mid-end CPU, and it runs this game very well. So I would agree with you that overall this game is incredibly well optimized for the PC. And I also want to point out that I think part of that is that it's not really a big jump from PS4 gen, right? And I think you would agree. Like overall, it's not like a big graphical jump. Like I put 2K19 on and like 2K26 back to back, and I think both games are visually comparable. So I don't think that the resources that this new game takes is a lot more than, what were needed to run PS4 era titles.
Exactly. And you're right, patch 1.1 reportedly addressed those issues with the 9000 series, so it is good to see that they are patching those issues, finding ways to fix those issues with PC, and also the PC patches have come out very quickly so far. The first big patch is going to be with Season 2. That is the way they've been handling it in recent years. Obviously, that's when they're going to push through all the likeness updates, or start pushing through more likeness updates, make some of those gameplay changes. With the patch notes so far, they've made it very clear that they are not changing any gameplay yet. They want to get more feedback and monitor the situation on all difficulty levels and all game modes before they really start making tweaks, which is a wise decision, obviously. We've talked about how patches can ruin games before, and they certainly have. So far, these are just hot fixes for technical issues that are being reported, coming through fairly quickly at the moment on all of the Gen 9 systems. So that is nice to see. And yeah, once again, not feeling the game so far. I know other people are. That is good to hear. Got a few mod releases so far in our downloads database. Thank you to the people who have released work so far. Please continue to make use of our upload facilities and share work in our community. We absolutely appreciate all the people who are dedicated to sharing those mods, those great mods, free of charge, and making them available to our community. Please get involved in the forum, etc. I will do my best to give the game a chance and join you all in discussing the game and hopefully playing it. So far, though, not so good, Derek.
I think for me, people are enjoying my highlights, right? Like I'm putting out Legends highlights, I'm putting out current team highlights, all of that, and people think the game looks good and the footage looks good and whatnot. I'm getting enjoyment out of the game. Okay, and I do find that this game is better than 2K24, which I had trouble even getting on the sticks on NBA 2K24. I think it has enough of NBA 2K25 in there and like the feel of 2K25 where, I'll put a couple 100 hours into this game probably. But again, I think the way you play matters, right? And, the majority of my gameplay is going to be local with, either co-op or head-to-head with, people I love, with my brothers and whatnot. And I think, though, it's a challenge for other people that don't have that setup. Right.
Absolutely.
And people that need to play solo, or people who feel the need that they have to play online. People that are unable to connect with others online and get enjoyment out of that and whatnot. So I think the way I play changes a whole lot, for me as far as, impressions at times, because, a head-to-head game against another human can feel entirely different than playing against the CPU. Right. Playing with another human on the same team locally can feel, a lot different than having to go at it yourself. against the CPU, so like you're strategizing with another human, you're setting picks for each other, you're moving different on the court and whatnot. So, I think that needs to be noted here, is that if I had to play the game solo, if I had to play it the way that you're playing it, the majority of the time, I wouldn't even put a quarter of the hours into it than, what I do. So I think that's notable.
Oh, it absolutely matters, for sure. The mode you play, the way you play, whether you're playing with or against other people. We've revisited a lot of games over the years, Derek, over Parsec, where we've concluded that this is not a fun game to play solo against the CPU. It's fun to play co-op against the CPU, or it's fun to play head-to-head, but it's just not fun to play single player. I'm trying to think of an example. Nothing's coming to mind at the moment, but I do know that we have had games where we've found that, this is a bit more fun to play with somebody or against somebody than it is solo against the CPU. So it definitely does matter. The modes matter. I'm not touching my team. I'm not touching my career. I'm sick of the grind. As I've said before, I would want to play with eras rosters or even current rosters in my NBA or fun exhibition games with classic teams, etc. So I'd be avoiding the microtransactions and grinding anyway, but it does come down to the on-court experience, and so far it hasn't been fun for me playing against the CPU. But yeah, that is my first impressions of NBA 2K26. It may not be my last impressions, but I will say that I'm not really encouraged at this time. Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC Podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, NBA-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
Andrew, moving on to our main topic, and most of this discussion is going to be centered around community responses to this announcement. And it's important to note, Andrew, that the way I feel about this is not as much 2K's fault as it is EA's. Okay? I'm going to say that right now, and I'll explain why after I go over the announcements. So it was announced by Matt Brown. EA Sports has withdrawn its college basketball video game proposal as more schools choose to work with 2K instead. And in the article, it states, Brown included the memo from Sean O'Brien, EA Sports VP of Commercial Partnerships and Licensing. Below is the statement. Given there are some schools choosing to accept the 2K Sports proposal for inclusion in NBA 2K, the offer to be included in a college basketball video game will unfortunately have to be rescinded, O'Brien wrote. Everyone at EA Sports is disappointed that we all couldn't find an acceptable path forward, but we appreciate your support in trying to bring a standalone college basketball game with all men's and women's Division I institutions and student athletes, conferences, as well as the NCAA, in a way that fans have told us they want. We really appreciate your support. So EA has stated that they are backing out of making a college basketball game. Soon after, 2K announced its NBA 2K26 launch week. It seems like a good time to share even more incredible news about the future of basketball at 2K. Yes, it's true. We're working on a college basketball experience. Note that, experience, that will feature more than 100 programs from across the country, from powerhouses to Cinderella stories. Competition fuels quality at all levels, which is why our approach with college basketball ensures our partner schools, college athletes, and our players all benefit. More good news, you won't have to wait long to start seeing your favorite colleges show up in-game. We've got big plans for 2027 and beyond, and even a few surprises coming in early 2026. We've proven the quality of basketball experience we can deliver for years and have every intention to bring that same level of quality to college hoops. Ball over everything, 2K. So this announcement was not received well. I think you saw all the responses, Andrew, on Twitter, and I'll be going over some of them. The biggest issue that people have, it's not necessarily that 2K is bringing college content to their games. It's the fact that they're talking about only including around 100 programs. And the whole point of a college basketball game, and what everybody is stating, is that, it includes most or all of the Division I teams. And the biggest draw to games like this is the fact that, people want to do the Cinderella story thing, right? They want to bring a bottom team to the top. They want to get them to the Final Four. They want to do the recruiting. They want to make magic happen. And that's the biggest draw of these games. And going by this proposal, that is something they are not going to be able to do for years to come. The other thing that people are upset about is that it looks like this is tied in the short term to DLC, which is downloadable content. And we know what DLC usually is, Andrew. It's paid for.
Oh,
right?
yes.
You got to pay extra to download that content. And so it looks like the college content is originally going to be part of that. And it looks like possibly in early 2026, there'll be some DLC that rolls out. And they're talking about a college basketball experience, almost like, maybe we're not going to get a standalone game. Not only will the content not be complete, as in like all Division I schools, but it almost sounds like they're going to make this part of 2K, kind of like the WNBA is, right? Yeah. And then have DLC in their My Team mode. So tying everything to NBA 2K. I don't know, there's just some speculation in here. There's just some uncertainties and whatnot. But this announcement did not sit well with people. And I would say that 90 to 95% of the comments, maybe more, are negative. And I want to point out really quick before I throw it over to you, why I think this is as much or more EA's fault as it is 2K's. So obviously 2K is kind of playing bully ball here, right? They have since the original EA proposal was accepted. And it's really just about, it's pretty anti-consumer, all of it, including what EA is doing with this. So let me explain. But basically 2K wanted to, muscle EA out, and they were able to do that even when they, broke the NDA when EA's proposal was originally accepted, and they were trying to talk to schools and say, hey, listen, don't do this deal yet with EA. But the point is that I think EA backed out of making a college basketball game because they weren't able to get the exclusive license. Right.
Yes,
and
yes.
I find that incredibly anti-consumer. And I think people need to see that what EA was trying to do here was say, hey, listen, we're going to make a complete college basketball experience, all Division I teams, men's and women's, which is what people want, right? We're going to make everything you want in a college basketball game, but we want to be the only person in the space that makes a college basketball game. And I think that, the suits, the people at EA who made this decision, because this is what it sounds like, you guys are kind of cowards. To be completely honest with you, because it doesn't seem like 2K is searching for an exclusive license for this, number one. Number two, I haven't seen an announcement where it states that the schools that EA said went with 2K would only go with 2K, right? Because you know how college basketball games worked in the past. Basically, it was, EA could have their college basketball game, 2K could have theirs, etc. So I think it's very important to note that, yes, 2K obviously played bully ball here. Obviously, they were able to muscle EA out of the equation. Obviously, they're not giving the majority of people, what they want as it relates to a college basketball experience based on their announcement. But EA kind of tucking their tail between their legs and walking away from a college basketball game because they couldn't get an exclusive license is very notable and should be highlighted, and is very disappointing, because in reality, the way they should have approached this is, okay, well, we're still going to make a college basketball game, right? And we're going to still try to give people what they want, regardless of the exclusive license piece. So it's very disappointing. I think you would agree.
Yeah, I think they really shot themselves in the foot, quite frankly, insisting on that exclusive license. And I understand why they did that. They're obviously not in a very strong position from a market standpoint when it comes to basketball video games. Haven't been for years. They wanted to not have to compete with 2K directly. Obviously, any basketball game is going to compete with any other basketball game to some extent, but if they are the only ones producing a college basketball game, there's going to be something that they're providing that 2K isn't. So I understand why they went for that. On top of everything else, it's EA, right? They're going to do this. It's not like they are an altruistic company. Neither is Take-Two, for that matter. And like you say, Take-Two playing bully ball, kind of being petulant about not getting that proposal accepted. Not a good proposal, as we said. I don't like the idea of DLC. I don't like the idea of my team content based on collegiate content, the way they're going to monetize it, the way it's going to be very anti-consumer. I don't have very high hopes for what 2K has planned, quite frankly. And the fact that I'm not enjoying NBA 2K also doesn't make me very excited about a standalone game either. Now, as we said before, EA doesn't exactly have a great track record for basketball games for quite a long time now. We do like aspects of NBA Live in the past generation, but it was not the strong comeback that it needed to be. EA Sports College Football did prove to be a strong comeback. No guarantees with basketball. It did sound like they wanted to make a strong comeback, though, make a good effort with this college basketball game, so there was hope there. If nothing else, it was going to be an alternative. That's what we wanted. That's what you and I, when we talked about that, that's kind of what we preferred. And other people in the community said the same thing, that they would prefer to have an alternative, something different, a break, a change from what NBA 2K is doing. And obviously, a college basketball game from 2K is going to do things slightly differently to NBA 2K. It's going to have that collegiate feel, but it's still going to have a lot of the same technology. It's still going to have a lot of the same bones. So a game from EA has a chance to be different. And now we're not going to get that.
I want to point out, too, really quick, you mentioned a different feel. We don't even know if 2K is going to come out with a standalone game.
Oh, sure. That too. So college basketball experience.
If they put a college basketball experience into the NBA 2K games, kind of like, like there's the WNBA mode, and then there'll be a college mode and whatnot, it will be that exact same engine.
Exactly. Different rules, but the same engine.
That's very, very worth noting. And that obviously includes that college DLC that you folks will be, prompted to take a look at the beginning of 2026 and possibly beyond. So, very, very worth noting that if it stays part of NBA 2K, it is 100% the same motion system.
Oh, exactly. And while I understand the skepticism of EA Sports, their ability to make a quality basketball game, and I do share some of that skepticism. We saw them over and over again for a couple of generations there, so I definitely get not trusting them. But 2K doesn't have a lot of goodwill with me, so it's very hard for me to trust that they'll do the right thing with this license, that they will make a great standalone game, that this won't just be a new way for them to generate recurrent revenue with My Team packs, or that it'll be subpar, shoving it into NBA 2K rather than a standalone game and sharing those same mechanics and the same problems that have been annoying me for years now. So I don't really trust 2K either. I understand why people don't trust EA. I'm also skeptical there, but again, 2K just doesn't have any goodwill with me at the moment. And look, it's hard to portray EA as the victims, because we know their business practices over the years. Even here, they were trying to go for an exclusive license, which we are generally against, even though I understand why they were doing it from a practical standpoint of being able to compete or avoid direct competition, which, as you said, is cowardly in many respects, although I also understand it with NBA 2K having such a stranglehold over the market. So I don't really want to portray them as victims. They shot themselves in the foot. But when you look at what 2K did, being so petulant, leaking that memo, going to schools, trying to scupper EA's project before it even gets off the ground, I don't know, man. I just don't like any of it. There are no heroes here, Derek.
Yeah, I think it's not good for the future of basketball gaming.
No.
Not just college basketball gaming, but basketball gaming in general. I think that it's not giving people what they want. I think it's just more of the same. And I think that it's unfortunate.
And I will say that even though EA are the ones that were pursuing an actual exclusive agreement, 2K, the way they handle their business, they're still trying to monopolize, still have that exclusive hold over the virtual hardwood. Maybe they don't have an exclusive deal, but they are trying to outmuscle the competition. They're making these deals with schools. They're trying to push EA out of the space, it was brought up in a Discord. They basically did the same thing to NBA Playgrounds, where they weren't happy that Saber Interactive were daring to make this basketball game. We make basketball at 2K. We're the exclusive home of basketball. And of course, Saber Interactive, they met with 2K and said, oh no, we're doing something different, and then ended up partnering with 2K, and I think 2K ended up kind of killing that series when they came under their umbrella. So even though they're not going for exclusivity through ironclad agreements, in practice, 2K is going for a monopoly.
Oh, absolutely. I also want to point out that as far as an experience with 2K, it's not good for Andrew, as you can tell. He is not having a strong experience with 2K basketball games. I wanted to get to some of the responses to that official announcement from 2K. They sent out a tweet that said, "We're going back to school." And then it was that whole memo that I read. Stephen at the Live King states, making an announcement at 9:35 p.m. LOL. EA really should have put their money where their mouth is. Either way, I'm not investing in 2K College. We already see where this is going. Don't worry, Live King. You do not have to buy and download that DLC, and it sounds like we may not even get a standalone college basketball game from 2K. So more than likely in the future, it's just going to be part of the NBA 2K experience. Kai, reloading at Real KY Muskie, states, if we can't have all 365 D1 basketball schools and turn Long Island University into a Big East powerhouse, then we don't want it, little bro. And that has 1.5 million views and 27K likes. And like I stated, Andrew, yeah, that is a huge draw. Having some of those bottom schools, being able to create that Cinderella story, that's probably the biggest draw to these games. And yeah, a lot of responses like that.
Well, a lot of people also want to play with their alma mater, right? Which may not be one of the top schools, but to be able to put themselves into the game or create the team that they watched in their school, their alma mater, that holds great appeal to people.
Mike Straw at Mike Straw Media states, 2K's college basketball game won't feature every team. Instead, it'll have more than 100 programs from across the country. He states not a fan of that at all. A lot of programs and players will be left in the cold. That's also worth noting that it affects those other schools that will not be included in those players. Ant Wright at It's Ant Wright. So it seems like EA Sports wanted a standalone college basketball game and include everyone. 2K just wants to integrate the biggest college brands into the next NBA 2K, and multiple schools chose that route instead, so he is not happy. 3.3K likes for that one. Bordeaux at Bordeaux YouTube states, well, there goes getting a full college basketball game with every D1 team. You still have enough time to do the right thing. 2K, and a lot of support for that one as well. Matt Brown, who made the announcement, stated, a confirmation of our early reporting, look for DLC within NBA 2K before a standalone college basketball game. But yes, 2K sources have told me there will be college basketball content in this year's NBA game, thinking around February. Soft Drink TV states, the worst part of 2K now being the one to make a college hoops title, in my opinion, is that we're not really getting competition. EA makes both NFL and college football games, and 2K now makes both NBA and college basketball games. Both have full control over their respective sport. Neither is pushed by the other. And yeah, that makes quality go down, Andrew. That makes, without competition, nobody's upping their game. Nobody's forced to up their game. And I think that's why we have such a stale product with NBA 2K today.
No doubt. We've talked about the importance of competition on countless occasions, and we stand by it because it has led to stagnation. It has led to boredom with the style of play. Even if 2K is putting out a technically good product, which I think they are, even if I don't enjoy it myself, people want something else. People like different styles, different approaches to the sim style or the arcade style or whatever. So yeah, we want choices in the space. We've said it so many times. We'll say it again. We need competition.
HS Top Recruits at HS Top Recruiting states, 2K is better, but they only want to feature limited teams. That's not it. You got to be able to take Mississippi Valley State University to the Final Four. That's what makes these games. Reddit CFB at Reddit CFB states, LOL, there are 365 D1 schools. Imagine if some video game company put out a statement saying, we're making an NFL game with over 9 teams. VF Baller at VF Baller states, EA Sim Basketball is cooked, NBA or college. Just make NBA Street or NBA Jam at this point. I mean, We wouldn't say no to that, Andrew. A new NBA Street, a new NBA Jam. I would pick those games up. I would pick those games up on day one. And thank you, PF Baller, for always supporting the show. Is EA Sports College Basketball 26 out at Is It Out EA? States 2K is known for basketball. This is probably for the best. I'm surprised to see that out of an account with this handle. And it's very, very worth noting, Andrew, that EA Sports was known for basketball far before 2K, right? And were the most popular basketball game at one point. Sure, it was years ago, but yeah. I mean, I'm not really a fan of the whole 2K is known for basketball, because that doesn't mean that they do it right, and that doesn't mean that they do everything right with it. And competition, is needed in this space, and I think that competition would make 2K better.
Yeah, that's kind of buying into the whole narrative that 2K themselves try to push. We are the undisputed home of basketball, which is technically true with the monopoly they have and with EA bowing out of the space. But like you say, doesn't mean that they're making fantastic games or games that everybody enjoys, or that they haven't made games that have issues. We've pointed out many of them, pointed out some of them on this very show and on last week's show as well. So I don't like the idea of just acquiescing the sim space to 2K.
801 Bracketology at 801 Bracketology states, worst news of the day, 2K only building a game with 100 teams is not much better than having no college basketball game. And a lot of people actually feel that way, Andrew. Jack Godar at Jack Godar states, this is awful, just an experience. No full game, and less than 1/3 of all college basketball teams. Less than 1/6 if that number includes women's teams too. Who wants this? And by the way, the responses that I'm reading are the most popular responses with 50K plus views, sometimes around 1 million views, thousands of likes, etc. Teddy Bear the Gamer at 317 Teddy Bear actually responded to the 2K is known for basketball, this is probably for the best tweet. He states, see, this is what happens when you step away for so many years. These younger athletes don't know anything about how incredibly good EA college basketball used to be. Unfortunately, EA did this to themselves by running from 2K's competition.
True.
All these years, and he's not wrong.
Yeah.
By the way, RBT at Samuel Brown RBT states, I will not be buying a college basketball game without every D1 school. No chance. 124K views, 4.4K likes. NKY Bracketology states, I think I speak for most college basketball fans when I say this. 99% of the magic of this game coming back is to be able to have all 364 teams in it, not 100 plus. 2K played bully ball and won, but now we're going to get a subpar product. It's abysmal. Again, thousands of likes,
sensing a theme with these responses.
Views. Yeah. Cole Adams states, if I can't win a national championship with Wright State or Longwood, then I won't be playing. That's one of the more popular responses. And then one more here. Trilly Donovan at Trilly Donovan states, maybe while you're at school, you can learn how many teams there are. 185K views on that one, 4.5K likes. So we had community responses to a community question that I asked related to this, Andrew, and we're going to get into that in a second. But yeah, not a good vibe as it relates to these announcements.
Well, you remember when EA Sports made that announcement that they were planning to come back with a new college basketball game? There was excitement.
The excitement was through the roof.
Exactly, yeah.
Most of the responses were super positive.
Yeah, because people want that competition. They want those alternatives. As much as people say EA just needs to go away, no NBA Live, no college basketball game from EA, whatever, just stay away. There's a lot more people saying very enthusiastically, no, we want EA to come back. We liked stuff they did. Nobody's denying the problems that NBA Live had, or NCAA basketball, NCAA March Madness back in the day. No one is saying they were perfect games, but there were definitely some good ones. Some excellent games from EA Sports, basketball games. The last one that was truly excellent, I would say, is NBA Jam on Fire Edition across the board. But they have had great basketball games over the years. If nothing else, people want something different. A different style, a different feel. Less of the greed that 2K has. And of course, it's bizarre to think that EA Sports is going to be the company to look to have less greed, but while they are trying to get that market share back, they actually did pull back on the greed in NBA Live at least, so there is that possibility that, to begin with, they're going to be going all out to try and win games over, which may mean less greed. So in the short term, we'll take it. If nothing else, though, a different feel, a different style, something else to play, an alternative, not just having to rely on 2K to deliver the experience you want, because obviously they can't please everybody and haven't been pleasing everybody. And there was that excitement about EA's game. So, yeah, this is just a tremendous shame.
So I asked the community, with EA Sports no longer in the running to make a college basketball game, what are your thoughts on 2K's roadmap moving forward? College content starts with DLC, potential for making a standalone game with 100 plus teams in the future. Also, do you think this is good for basketball gaming? So we're going to start with the responses on Twitter first. Royce states, I'm disappointed there will be no title from EA or any other publisher. When 2K says DLC, it sounds like they won't have a good amount of teams, courts, etc. right away. Is this a month or so or more? He's asking for a timeline. Leaves more questions, I feel. I would still like to see and play the game. Sounds like the DLC will probably roll out in February of 2026, and be tied to NBA 2K26. But yeah, I share those concerns as well. And thank you for always supporting the show. Leader of the Foot Clan at aka_Chuck_Cross states, extremely disappointed, especially with only 100 plus teams. However, we're going to see teams next year instead of the 3 years EA was going to take. I still want an EA Sports college basketball game in the future, but I'm getting older now and I want it before I die. I think the problem is that, he would have had to wait 3 years, but at least it would have been a full college basketball experience, right?
Yeah.
He would have had, all the D1 teams, men's and women's, and it wouldn't be all of this stuff tied behind paywalls, all of that. It just would have been a full college basketball experience, just like the, college football 25 and college football 26. And those 3 years, Leader of the Foot Clan, they would have gone by a lot faster than you think. But, the other issue with this is he states that, he'd rather have some college basketball content in the short term than the long term, and have to wait those 3 years. But I think you're in the minority with that. I think you heard the responses, and I've been reading all the responses on social media. This isn't what people want. The people don't want to pay for something that's not a full college basketball experience. They're not going to get the experience they want this way. So I think that's great that you may tend to that DLC. I think it's great that you'll be able to use some college teams in the short term and you'll get a good experience out of that. But the majority of people, from all the responses I'm reading, they do not like the sound of this.
And obviously we're focusing on the My Team content, or the rumored My Team content, and the possibility of a standalone game or a college mode in NBA 2K. I imagine they're also going to be including those schools in My Career. Obviously, there's been college portions of My Career in the past. As part of the story, you can go to college, play out that college career. NBA 2K21 actually allowed you to play 4 years of college. There was a PlayStation trophy and Xbox Live achievement for that. So I imagine that they might be able to include more schools to play for prior to the NBA in My Career. I could see them making use of their agreement with schools there, which is a nice use of that. But again, it's not worth scuppering EA's game, in my view.
Neon and Butch Gaming at Stildo33, friend of the show, states, it wouldn't take much to make an amazing game. The problem is 2K will screw it up. There was a time when you made a video game and your revenue was a result of selling the game. Now your revenue is entirely dependent on selling virtual items within a crappy game.
Yep.
Still optimistic. But he is dead on, right on with that. Thundershack at Thundershack states, I really would have loved to see more competition for 2K. I do think that the 2K version would be more polished out of the gate, but the community is itching for something fresh. I feel like diving back into college rather than NBA would have been huge for EA. And I think it would have been excellent. The problem is that it seems like they wanted an exclusive license. We're not going to be able to get that, and now they're out. Phil Lime 2002 at Phil Lime 2K states, with as often as they update the NBA roster and keeping severe roster issues like Harden's high dunk tendency, one of so many, I expect that the NCAA roster won't get more love of it, unfortunately. Basically, he's stating don't expect accuracy. And I did notice that. I played against my brother. He was using James Harden, and he was dunking all over me with him. I thought that was interesting because Harden's in his late 30s now, and he's definitely not doing that, Andrew. Mike P for free at Mike Partridge states, it's definitely not good for basketball gaming. Competition makes us work harder, which in my opinion is why NBA Live was so good from 2003 to 2010, with the odd exceptions along the way. And that's because EA had a rival game to compete with. I think EA should put its efforts into an NBA game again. I don't agree that NBA Live was super strong from 2003 to 2010. I think 2003, 2004, 2005 and 06 were really solid, but 07, 08, and for a lot of people, 09 were pretty disappointing, Andrew. And that's when they really started to fall off. And then the NBA Live 06 on Xbox 360 was a letdown for so many people because they took out so much of the depth and some of the gameplay features and all of that stuff. And then Live 07 was an absolute disaster. And 08 was a little bit better, but not great as well. So I think you would agree there.
Yeah, 7th gen was definitely rough for NBA Live. And even towards the end of 6th generation and the PC ports, NBA Live 07 and NBA Live 08 had some issues, to say the least. Not the strongest era for NBA Live, but of course you did have NBA 2K picking up the slack. You still had people who liked the NBA Live style. You had the choice, if nothing else. And you had Inside Drive for a few years there. You had the Shootout series. You had the NBA series from San Diego Studio exclusive to PlayStation. So we at least had some options, which, again, is what we want to see in the space. Look, I would love to see NBA Live return. Obviously, we did mention that when we talked about the original announcement that EA Sports was planning this college basketball game, that ultimately we would prefer an NBA game, an NBA return for NBA Live, but we understood the benefits of going the college route. And although we didn't agree with the exclusivity of it, also saw the logic for being able to compete, as I said on this show as well. So I'm not confident we're going to see it, especially because that would really be competing with 2K. But yeah, I do miss NBA Live, even with its struggles.
Steven at the Live King states, disappointed. I had to process the loss as a content creator and a fan. We won't get maximum effort. They can't even fix the legends in their NBA game. EA was getting ready to go big. T Gentry at Bucky T states, I am not excited to have the same feel with the current 2K basketball gameplay. These mechanics are so unnatural. He states, I am highly disappointed. There's over 300 plus teams in Division I college hoops. And he states, I am worried that we may not ever get a basketball game from EA again. And that was your worry, right? You've been kind of at that same mindset for a while, where I was optimistic that they were going to come out with something NBA Live or college basketball related. You've been on the fence. You've been thinking that, maybe they'll never come back. So
more pessimistic, yeah.
Yeah, pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I'd say that still is my view at this point, because they've been quiet for so long. I mean, this was the most encouraging sign we've had, this announcement that they were going to come back with EA Sports College Basketball, or whatever it's going to be called. Let's just assume it was. And now this, yeah, I certainly don't feel very optimistic at this point.
SI at SIO2 states, they need a standalone game because college shouldn't be treated like a side mode. This isn't the WNBA. There's a lot they can do with it, legacy, career mode-wise. The presentation needs to be drastically different. It appears as if they're going to add a few teams and then use the college licenses to make more NCAA-branded apparel in the city, and that's it. They're using the NCAA to bring more people to the city, and that's a problem, and it isn't good for basketball gaming. I agree that this isn't good for the future of basketball gaming, and it's starting out with paid DLC and its ties to my career, and almost sounding like it's going to be more just a part of NBA 2K than a full-featured college basketball experience. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's not good for basketball gaming. Andrew at Andrew the X states, I don't think it'll get past DLC content plus integration into my career, so it's only a minor positive to my career players. For 2K, it is a positive for them and a negative for gamers, as EA is less likely to enter a b-ball gaming landscape. Exactly. I think this is just more of a positive for 2K. They can monopolize this space as well, and a negative for gamers. I find the entire thing anti-consumer.
Yeah, and X is a huge college basketball fan, but the real thing, and video games. I know that he loves College Hoops 2K8, so it's not like he is anti-2K, and of course playing together in NLSC Thrillho and NBA 2K17, so I know how much he'd love to have that standalone college game that takes him back to College Hoops 2K8. And of course that was a very popular release among college basketball gamers. So yeah, I feel his disappointment with a lack of a standalone release. And to your point on his, it does sound like they could just stick with that DLC and that My Team content and shoving it in there as a side mode in NBA 2K.
Jed's Gaming Corner states, business-wise it works. I don't mind 2K taking their time. Miguel Velasco, 41, states, L for us, since 2K has been pretty lazy with the recent releases and again are focused on microtransactions. Same thing with how EA is handling the Madden series, which have been horrid. We need competition. In my honest opinion, this exclusivity just hurts us. CRQ at Coach Q's says, no, this won't cut it. Every team and a standalone game is the only way. Anything less is unacceptable. The idea of throwing a few big-name teams in NBA 2K as DLC is a slap in the face to true college basketball fans who love the game, the mid-majors, and Cinderellas in March. And that right there is just one of the biggest problems people are having with this, and I definitely agree with CRQ. Mike Harshman at MKHarsh33 states 2/3 of the school is missing. It's a joke. Justin Francis at Justin Francis 7 says, I understand why EA Sports wanted an exclusive license because they felt they were taking a risk, but I don't necessarily think it's bad that they didn't get one. Them choosing to sit this one out is unfortunate, but that's their choice, for better or for worse. And, you know, at the end of the day, I said this, I think EA is at fault for trying to get that exclusive license in the form of, you know, I think competition should be allowed in these spaces, right? I think you would agree. In the football space, in the basketball space, doesn't matter, in the baseball space, et cetera. I'd love to see somebody actually competing with MLB The Show, by the way. It'd be nice to see another fully licensed baseball game and whatnot. But yeah, I agree with him. I think that EA Sports is also at fault here.
Totally. And once again, I see why they went for it, because EA does this kind of thing, for a start, but also it would help them to not compete with NBA 2K so directly. But yeah, they shot themselves in the foot. And yeah, as much as we can blame 2K, and I think they did play bully ball, as we said, and they went to those schools and they got those agreements, and it was definitely an effort to sink EA's game well before it was even in development, in production. Ultimately, yeah, EA shot themselves in the foot.
Josh at Josh the Baller 2 states, trash. Flo at KShow2X says, I would rather 2K focus on the NBA game and leave college basketball to EA. Money-hungry ass company. I'm not paying for some stupid-ass DLC, and I probably won't buy the college basketball game. I see no point. And that's what a lot of people say. And there's like, I don't see any point to this. I don't see a point to downloading the DLC. And I don't see a point to getting a standalone college basketball game if that one were to be made with only around 100 teams. So jumping over real quick to Discord, Andrew, we did receive a couple of responses. ZCB44 states, I get having only 100 plus schools if it's like some sort of addition to NBA 2K, but as a standalone game, that would be a huge slap in the face to general sports gamers and especially college basketball fans. Maddie A states, I think if 2K wants to make a college basketball game, that is a good thing in itself. I would really like to see EA give it some competition, but we know how that goes. I would like to see it as starting as DLC, but I would prefer a standalone game with all college basketball teams represented. Yeah, people are not loving this DLC idea. Careless XCI stated, this is what 2K does. They kind of did the same thing with NBA Playgrounds 2. Pep came up with an interesting idea. He states, I wonder if it depends on already signed agreements with EA with colleges, if they could sue 2K, and he's unsure of who would be responsible for that. So that's an interesting idea as well, because they did break the NDA and, you know, started talking to schools and whatnot. QB1120 came up with a point that I know will resonate with you, Andrew. He states, it reminds me of WWE counter-programming its competitors like you already own the space. You're just being greedy now.
Yeah, that's a pretty apt comparison there.
So I believe we also received responses on other platforms.
Yes, we're going to start out with a response on Blue Sky, also posting the community questions there. Tip of the Spear says, I'm glad 2K took the lead on this one. I have no interest in EA having exclusive rights to make this game. I'm also pretty disgusted by their unwillingness to compete. I'll take DLC in this year's game and a trickling out of content before I trust EA to get anything related to basketball right. And I get that. I get the skepticism with EA, and 2K is in a better position to make a game sooner, or at least they have a game to put this content in, whereas EA is having to build from the ground up. I will say that while EA tried for that route of not competing, getting that exclusive deal, I do think that 2K is basically trying to do the same thing without actually having that deal in place. They are still trying to monopolize that space, and while I understand having more trust in 2K, like I said, 2K doesn't have any goodwill with me at the moment, so I don't really trust them to get it right either, to be honest. It's bad news all around.
Yeah, they also didn't take the lead with this one, actually. EA Sports took the lead with trying to get a college basketball game out there, and then it was intercepted by 2K playing bully ball. And I also want to point out that the original announcement from 2K when they were trying to intercept this was that a standalone college basketball game may happen in 2030. Just remember that, 2030. And that was if they were making enough money off of the DLC and the college content they were putting in their NBA 2K games. So, yeah, they weren't taking the lead on this. In fact, they were looking at only giving you a standalone college basketball game, potentially, possibly 5 years from now, and just basically roping you in or trying to rope you in with just DLC and stuff in their NBA 2K games. So let's not give 2K that much credit. They're the only reason why they're even doing this and talking about trying to step up their game and get something out quicker is to continue the bully ball factor. And it's not based on quality. It's based on just putting something out there. So give me a break.
Yeah, I do understand having more trust in 2K to actually put out a product and actually get basketball right, more so than EA with the track record over the past 10, 15 years at least. But, like I said, there are no heroes in this situation, unfortunately. Jumping over to Facebook now, Ken says, I think starting with college DLC is smart for 2K, low risk, but it tests the demand. If it clicks, a standalone with 100 plus teams could be huge. Overall, it's great for basketball gaming because it adds variety and could connect nicely with the NBA side. Now, of course, as a lot of people have pointed out, 100 teams doesn't really cut it when previous games have had so many more, when that is the expectation. He does bring up a good point here about the integration with the NBA side of things. Something that EA didn't do with their college basketball games back in the day was have great integration between the March Madness and NBA Live series. I think NBA Live 2004 and March Madness 2004 were the only games where you could import players from March Madness as rookies into NBA Live 2004. I think 2K series allowed you to do that more often, so that was a missed opportunity there. With that integration, that could be a lot of fun, so I definitely see the benefits, but like I said, I just don't have that trust and goodwill with 2K at the moment.
I completely disagree with him that it tests demand. It's a completely different idea. It's a completely different experience. I don't agree that it's a test at all. It's if anything, it's just not a good test, because the demand is a full college basketball experience, right? Not that. It doesn't really say anything as it relates to how many people would buy a full college basketball experience and a fully fledged college basketball experience in its standalone game. So I completely disagree with the showing demand piece.
CF says, I think it makes the most sense with 2K doing it and having some type of My Career mode that can transfer over to NBA 2K, but I do not like that 2K is essentially monopolizing basketball games and has no pressure whatsoever from any type of competitor. Once again, it comes down to that lack of competition and monopolizing the space without actually having that exclusive agreement. And once again, we're not saying that EA are the good guys. They were obviously trying to get that exclusive contract like they have with Madden, and that is not a good thing for competition either, understandable as it may have been. But 2K is doing the same thing without actually going for that deal. So they're not the good guys either.
Well, they felt pressure, and the way they handled that is bullying EA out.
Oh, yeah.
There was pressure there. And that's why the announcements keep changing. We went from 2030 to that now even not being talked about for a standalone game and saying, 100 plus teams with a college basketball experience, and just kind of being super vague. So they've already felt the pressure, and the way they handled it is getting rid of it. They got rid of it by bullying EA out.
And finally, Jared says, a lack of competition is why I'm not interested in this. 2K has shown that they've taken the EA approach with no competition, put no effort in making the game better, rely on their influencers to sell a product, get defensive when anyone criticizes the game. I'll be instead working on my card game stuff for basketball rather than playing a new 2K game. And I can certainly relate to doing other things rather than playing the latest NBA 2K game. Indeed, on the show, I've talked about how I feel about NBA 2K26. And once again, Derek, comes down to that lack of competition. People getting excited about the possibility of EA coming back into the space, even if they didn't completely trust EA, even if they were skeptical about its quality. still wanted to see competition, still wanted to have that alternative, not entirely trusting 2K either. Like he says, influencers shilling for the game, all the defensiveness when anyone dares to criticize the game, even very politely, even constructively, as we always try to do, obviously. So yeah, obviously, while there is some excitement and intrigue around 2K doing something with college basketball, a lot of people not feeling it, a lot of people concerned, and I'm right there with them.
Yeah, I just think in closing, I just don't think this is good for basketball gaming in general, whether it be college or NBA. I just think that all of it is incredibly anti-consumer, and it is a damn shame what has happened to the basketball gaming space. And I just encourage people to, maybe get more into retro gaming, try to play more of the classics. And I think that it sucks to have to say that, because I know that some of you want, the new schools with the new art and, the real players and all of that stuff. And, when it comes to NBA games, you want the current teams represented as well in a new game, and, the new players and all that stuff. And it sucks. Like, all of this sucks. And it's unfortunate that EA, like I said, the way I look at it is they kind of tucked their tail between their legs and, exited the space super fast and got bullied out super fast because they couldn't get that exclusive license. And I think that 2K, thinking that they are the holy grail of basketball and that they're the only ones who can make basketball video games and bullying EA out. Yeah, EA and 2K are both at fault to me, and this whole thing sucks.
Agreed, 100%. I will, of course, echo that recommendation to Retro Basketball Game. It has been such a joy for me in recent years to go back to old favourites, to discover some new old favourites. And to that point, Derek, at least we have our NBA 2K9 association to fall back on.
Yeah, and I want to get involved in playing with more people over parsecs, playing some of the classics and whatnot. But yeah, you and I have had a blast playing classic basketball video games over the last few years, and that's not going to stop anytime soon.
But yes, that is our take on the big news regarding college basketball games from the past week. And of course, my impressions of NBA 2K26. I'm sure we'll circle back and talk about that game a little bit more in the weeks to come. In the meantime, please keep the conversation going in the comments, in our forum, and of course the NLSC Discord.
Yeah, thank you for all the responses to the community question this week and every week. On Discord, on Twitter, on Facebook, and everything. You guys are awesome.
With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning in, and please join us again next week and every week on the NLSC, nb-live.com, our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us and, of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on YouTube, D43, and on the NLSC, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.